Hello, my name is Kerin Webb and I'm a hypnotherapist, counsellor, cognitive behavioural therapist and clinical hypnotherapist. I work in Dorset currently and have done for the last 19 years. And I thought I'd just talk just for a few minutes, give you an idea of some of the things that can be managed with hypnotherapy and counselling, NLP and cognitive behavioural therapy. One of the areas I've specialised in over many years now is helping people to overcome phobias, anxiety attacks and things of this nature. And I'll give you a few examples of this. I can remember a client came to see me referred by her doctor, I think about 3 years ago, and she had a severe needle phobia. Unfortunately for her, she had a health condition that necessitated going to a hospital, I think it was in Lymington, for treatment. And the treatment involved having lots of injections. And she'd been for, or at least attempted to have a treatment, she'd gone to this hospital. As they attempted to give her one of these injections, she passed out in hospital, hit her head, I think, on a sink, cut her head open. It was very, very bad for her. And that obviously reinforced the problem that she had with phobias. And not only then did she have a phobia, her original phobia of needles, but she had a phobia of the treatment itself. She was referred to me by her doctor, who had over a number of years referred various people to me. I think first of all as a result of a family member of his coming to see me for help to stop smoking. So she came to see me. We did together a combination, an integrated treatment utilising hypnotherapy and NLP techniques, and she then went for her next appointment at Lymington Hospital. While she was there, I'd arranged with her to arrange with her consultant or doctor that she would phone me as she was having the treatment. And I guess she was laid down on a couch or sat in a chair or something. And as they were about to administer the injections, she phoned me and I talked her through some of the techniques that we did. And that enabled her very successfully to have the injection that she'd been dreading, or injections. She then had to follow up this session with a further session with 19 injections involved. So we did a follow-up treatment, and she then went to the hospital and she had 19 injections all in one go. Now, I don't have a needle phobia, and I can have an injection when necessary, but I can tell you I would not relish having to have 19 injections all in one go. But she contacted me that day, the day after, very, very soon afterwards, to say that she'd just sailed through, by comparison. I mean, obviously there was a certain amount of anxiety there, but in comparison to the time that she'd passed out and, the trauma that she had, she sailed through the experience and everything was fine. Give you another one. There was a lady, I remember, she used to go skiing with her husband, and she, for reasons unbeknown to her, she began to have panic attacks on the ski slopes. So she came to me in between holidays, and we did some work together, again a combination of hypnotherapy and NLP, and I helped her to, in real time in the room, as much as is possible, to get the sense of standing on the skis. And there were certain techniques that we applied together to help her change the way she instinctively reacted to being on the ski slope and then having these panic attacks. She then sent me a card. She went skiing. And she sent me a card. I think there's, I know there's a testimonial on our website that says something like, I don't know how this works, the skiing is wow, and everything was fine. So something that had become an ingrained problem, within one session we were able to change. And that's often the case with phobias, phobias, things like that, can often, as obviously there's no guarantee, but very often in the space of one session, using a combination of hypnotherapy, NLP, counselling, CBT techniques, can be eradicated, because a phobia is basically a learned response. The brain, if you like, learns a particular pattern of behaviour to a certain situation. And what we do using these techniques is to help the brain to unlearn it, to develop a different response. I remember a tragic situation that happened. It was one of the, probably, I'd been in practice for about a year, so we're going back 18 years now. And this client came to see me. She'd been out horse riding with a friend. Something had spooked her friend's horse. It had thrown her friend off of the horse. And then as her friend was groggily picking herself up from behind the horse continued to kick out. It kicked her in the head and she died instantly on the spot. Her friend came to see me because although she continued horse riding, what had happened was that whenever anything spooked her horse, she went into a full-blown panic attack on the back of the horse, and it would bolt, and she would just hang on for dear life, having lost control. And she'd reached the point, this had happened a number of times, that she was worried that, you know, maybe the horse would jump over a hedge into a road and cause a major accident, and she, the horse, and, you know, maybe a car driver would get killed. And I did hear around about this time of similar incidents actually happening. So she came to see me, and in one session, again, using a combination of techniques, we were able together to eradicate the detrimental response, the panic attacks that she was having, and she recovered her ability to ride horses without any problem whatsoever. In fact, she contacted me, I think it was 6 months later, and then again a year later, to give me feedback about how well she was doing. She said her instructor at the equestrian centre said her horse riding skill had gone kind of like that. Now, of course, the therapy didn't make her a better rider in the sense that it gave her skills she didn't already have. What we were unable to do using these techniques was to help remove a limiting block or a negative reaction, so that all the innate skill that she had that already made her a good horse rider could resurface, and she could get back to where she was before the tragedy happened. Other areas that hypnotherapy and NLP and CBT and counselling can be useful for is with addictions. Another area that I've specialised in for many years, and I've taught many people also, other hypnotherapists, how to do this, is to help people stop smoking. This very often can take place in one session. Occasionally you might need a booster session, maybe 1 or 2 sessions at some point down the line, but for many people it can be one session. I remember one lady coming to see me. She'd been smoking 40 cigarettes a day for the previous 58 years, and in one session of hypnotherapy she stopped. There was another lady that drove down from Salisbury in Wiltshire. She was smoking, I think, if I remember correctly, 60 cigarettes a day. Now, these are extreme, and particularly in this day and age, I mean, this is going back a while, and people used to smoke more when they did smoke then, and even regular smokers now tend to smoke less. But she was a heavy-duty smoker, 60 cigarettes a day, and with one session of hypnotherapy, she became a non-smoker, and in fact referred 2 other people in the Salisbury area that drove down to Bournemouth, where I was living at the time, who also had smoking cessation therapy. Other areas that can be really useful is sports enhancement. I can remember I was running a one-day workshop on self-hypnosis, and 2 of the attendees were people that played golf regularly. And one of them mentioned that her partner that she teamed up with to play golf was really negative. If she missed a shot, she would kind of go and roll her eyes and make all these kind of expressions. And of course that didn't really put the course delegate in the best frame of mind to continue with the golfing day. So we did on the course, I actually worked with her live at the time, and we used a number again of hypnotherapy and NLP techniques to help her to deal with this and to maintain an optimum performance. She contacted me soon afterwards, and as a result of this, she and her friend, who were in some kind of tournament, they actually won the tournament. A very similar situation was a young girl that was a keen badminton player. I think she played in tournaments. It's been a while again. This was about 5 years ago. She played in tournaments, but there was one particular person that whenever she came up against her in a tournament, she used to wobble and lose her nerve, and this was having an effect on her badminton. So she came to see me for counselling hypnotherapy, and again we did a session of hypnotherapy together that removed this negative block for her, and she contacted me very soon afterwards to say it made an incredible difference to her ability to play this person. It can help with job interviews. I can remember a woman who was a teacher who was on a temporary contract. Apparently often this happens when you're new to teaching. You're on a temporary contract, and you know, after a year they either take you on or you have to look elsewhere. And she was going for job interviews with other schools and was getting rejected left, right and centre. So she came to see me, I think it was on a Friday, and she had an interview on a Monday, the following Monday. And again we spent one session together using a combination approach, hypnotherapy, NLP, some CBT and probably counselling techniques together. And I helped her become aware of how she was responding in interviews, the kind of thoughts she was thinking and how they were working against her. And then we built a different way of responding. She went to the interview on the Monday, and they're often all-day interviews for these teaching positions. So it was a long day that she had ahead of her. But she was elated. She phoned me, I think, around about 4:30 on that day. She was, she called me Mr. Webb rather than Kerin, left a message on the answer phone. I remember it. She said, I just want to tell you, Mr. Webb, I've been for the interview and they've offered me the job on the spot. So up until the Friday, they had, interviews she'd been going to, she was getting rejected. We did some work together. We helped her change her sense of self-perception and how she responded in an interview. And the very next interview that she went to, she was offered the job on the spot. Now, this isn't always a magic solution. Phobias, often it can be, as I say, at least in the sense that they can be cleared very often in 1 or 2 or 3 sessions. I tend to aim for clearance in 1 session, and that's often what happens. Smoking cessation too can be very often dealt with rapidly, and things like job interviews, changing how you respond in situations like that, the change can be very rapid. There are other areas, of course, that relate to longer term issues, perhaps relationship issues or something, where although progress can be made in 1 session, you might find that you're coming to see your counsellor, your hypnotherapist, your NLP practitioner over a number of sessions, because in those kind of situations there are other dynamics that are involved, other people are involved in the situation, and there's often self-learning that takes place with regard to how a person responds themselves to other people, but also learning about the dynamics and how other people respond, and therefore how we react and interact to them. So that can be a bit more involved. I remember, very, very kindly, Christian O'Connell, who is the host of Absolute Radio's breakfast show. A number of years he contacted me through Facebook to say how he'd come to see me a number of years ago, and we did some NLP together to help him on a specific objective that he had, and he felt that he benefited greatly to the extent that he highlighted this on his breakfast show, and then through Facebook messaged me to tell me that he'd done so. He works in the public eye, obviously. He's the host of the breakfast radio show. He appears on television and has done quite regularly, and he felt that the work that we did together enhanced his ability in these areas. So the scope can be broad. Another very, very different, a surgeon a number of years ago consulted with me. He wanted hypnotherapy to help him with his surgery, his skills in that regard. So again, very successfully, we worked together in this regard. These are the areas that we can look at. As I say, the results can be very rapid in some areas. Other areas can take a little bit longer. I also do training courses. I have done now for probably about 17 years or thereabouts. I've run an accredited training course, or a course that's now accredited. It started out as a smaller course and then developed and eventually became accredited, that teaches people how to become clinical hypnotherapists, NLP practitioners and cognitive behavioural therapists, who then themselves can become registered members of the General Hypnotherapy Register upon successful completion of the course. My claim to fame with this course is that it is worth at least $10 billion, and I'll tell you how. A number of years ago, 2 people that worked for, I think one still does, one left, but at the time they both worked for a very well-known bank. It's a massive bank, and they were part-way through the diploma course that I was running at the time. And at this time, it was before the financial crisis, this bank was about to lose a contract that was worth $10 billion. And one of these women, she was a director of the bank, and she was called in to manage this situation, to try and troubleshoot it and resolve it. So she told me on the next weekend of the course that she attended, they'd called her in to do this, and she asked herself, how would Kerin deal with this, based on what she'd learned at that stage on the hypnotherapy NLP training course, and she applied the principles that she thought I would apply in that situation, and the bank actually retained the $10 billion contract. Now, I've often said when I've told this story that, I don't know anything about banking, So I actually probably wouldn't have done what she thought I would have done, because I don't have the background knowledge in banking. However, coupling with her existing banking skills, the skills that she learned on the course, and then thinking about, I suppose she was assuming if I had her skills as a banker and the skills of NLP and hypnotherapy and communication skills, what would I do? She then applied those, and it actually saved her bank the loss of a $10 billion contract. Sadly, I wasn't on commission. We just got the student fees. But I mean, it was a wonderful thing to see that in a real life cutting edge situation where the stakes were incredibly high, she used these principles and was able to save the bank $10 billion. I don't know whether that was on a yearly basis or what, you know, the length of the contract, but whatever it was, that's a lot of money. People often have a misunderstanding as to what hypnotherapy is. They think it's maybe somebody that you often hear the phrase, "you're going under," and that is very far from the truth. You don't actually lose consciousness. It's an altered state of awareness in which the person in hypnosis is deeply relaxed. Nevertheless, they can still be aware of everything that's going on around them. They'll hear my voice, they'll hear the sounds perhaps of traffic going by outside, birds singing in the distance. If I've got music playing, they hear the music playing, yet nevertheless, because they're in an altered state of awareness, it enables me to talk more directly to the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind is the part of us that has an incredible degree of influence over how we respond. So for instance, if we've developed a phobia, there's a part of us that I call the protective part, because a phobia is always happens because there's a part of us that's trying too hard to protect us. So it causes us to avoid situations that scare us. That's what the phobia is. It's an avoidance pattern. So we avoid the problematic situation. But when we talk to the unconscious mind, that's perhaps the most powerful part of us, at least as regards the psyche, the way the brain works, the mind works, we can ask the unconscious mind to, if you like, if you can imagine a thermostat, we can say to the unconscious mind that we're really grateful that the protective part wants to protect us, but it's kind of working overtime here. So I'd like to invite you, please, to ask the protective part to turn the dial down. If you can imagine a thermostat, and that the phobic reaction corresponds to the thermostat being set at like 90 degrees. It's on, you know, it's on really hot setting. And what we ask the unconscious mind to do, because of course 90 degrees, you don't need, you know, that's too hot. Or in regards to the phobic reaction, it's trying too hard to protect itself, or to protect the person rather, that it actually narrows their life. So what we say effectively, using special communication techniques, we actually call them language patterns. There are special ways in which we can communicate with the unconscious mind using intonation, pausing, a technique called a phonological ambiguity, and many others. We can talk to the unconscious mind in a way that bypasses the conscious mind, and sometimes the conscious mind will actually resist change, which is one of the reasons why hypnotherapy can work in situations where other forms of traditional counselling maybe don't, because in some counselling settings or some psychotherapy settings, the conscious mind is still actively involved, and there can be situations where the conscious mind will resist making change. It might have what's called a paradoxical intention. The person might have a paradoxical intention in as much as they want to change, but there are certain things they don't want to do in order to change. That creates a push-pull dynamic. Whereas with hypnosis, we can often bypass the conscious mind's resistance and talk directly to the unconscious mind. And we can ask the unconscious mind, if you like, symbolically say, okay, turn the dial down, let's have the temperature set maybe around about 60 degrees or 70 degrees, something that's just kind of pleasant, so that the protective part can still do its job. It can still look out for the person, for the client, but it doesn't need to work so hard that it actually limits their lives. So that's one way this works. You know, we can go into an altered state. The person's still aware of what's going on, but through the use of special, what we call language patterns, linguistic techniques, intonation, pausing, and all these other language patterns, of which there are many. By the way, I've written a book on it. It's a 670-page book. It was published about 10 years ago, if you're interested, called The Language Pattern Bible, that deals specifically with this branch of hypnotherapy. And then last year I was invited by Professor Ursula James to add a chapter on this subject to her book on clinical hypnotherapy. So it can prove to be very, very effective in a wide range of situations. I'll bring this video to a conclusion now. I'll probably do some more at a later stage. If you're interested in learning more, if you go to our website, which is www.soulsynthesis.co.uk, that's www.soul, synthesis, synthesis.co.uk. You can learn about the therapies that we offer, the training courses that we offer. We can do online counselling. So if you're not in the Dorset area or close to Dorset, then if it's counselling that you want, depending upon what the situation is, then we can do that online. We could do that by Skype. If you're in Dorset or in counties that border Dorset, Wiltshire, Hampshire, Somerset, you know, people will travel for quite some distance, you know, sometimes to get help with certain situations. So if you're in somewhere that's within striking distance, or you're interested in help with maybe a phobia, anxiety, panic attacks, relationship issues, work-related issues, seeking employment, improving your sports, public speaking skills, the range that these methodologies can assist with is very, very broad. I like to work in an integrative way, which is why I trained in a number of complementary modalities, because that gives me the scope to work with clients in a number of contexts. So as I say, whether it's anxiety disorders, or it's a relationship issue, maybe somebody's eating too much and they're putting on loads of weight and they want to reduce their weight, all of these areas are areas that can be addressed with these particular methods. So, as I say, if you want to find out more, go to our website, www.soulsynthesis.co.uk. There is quite a lot of information up there. If you've got questions, there's an email link there, obviously, and our telephone number's there. You're welcome to give me a call. I'll happily have a chat with you if you're interested in talking about therapy to help overcome a particular problem or achieve a particular life skill. If you're interested in training too, if you're thinking about maybe becoming a cognitive behavioural therapist, hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, then by all means to come along and have a chat. We can help. If you're already qualified, over the years many people that are trained counsellors, hypnotherapists that are already in practice, they'll often come and train and do a workshop with us. You know, maybe a 1-day workshop or a 7-day workshop to develop a range of skills that can, if you like, sit on top of the skills that they've already developed to expand their therapeutic toolkit. So if you're already in practice, and you want to look at this particular branch of therapy and to add it to the range of skills that you've already got to help you with your own clients, then again, by all means, get in touch. So thank you very much indeed for taking the time to watch this video, and maybe I'll get to talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye for now.